Good afternoon. We are going live once again here on this 4th of June, 2024. And the Capital Group conversation for today topic is Hollywood's biggest Ponzi scheme, how Zachary Horowitz duped friends and family out of 690 million US dollars. So let us begin. Let us begin with our articles for today. One is from the New York Post and one is from the LA Times. I will start with the New York Post. It's a bit more succinct, and then we will head over to the LA Times just to get a full picture of how this took place a few years back, and more specifically what he did right and what he did wrong, depending on how you view this scam. Okay, so let us jump into the New York Post article first. Title of article, how a B-movie actor duped friends and family out of $690 million for Hollywood's biggest Ponzi scheme. An aspiring actor who moved from Indiana to Tinseltown starred in Hollywood's biggest Ponzi scheme, raising over $690 million from family, friends, and other investors by convincing them that he ran a successful movie licensing business. Zachary Horowitz, who snagged bit parts under the stage name Zach Avery in films starring Brian Cox, Bruce Dern, and Olivia Munn, claimed he was negotiating with HBO, Netflix, and Sony to license the rights to Spanish-language films, according to court records. During the 5-year scheme, Horowitz preyed on 3 of his closest college friends, who in turn persuaded their parents, grandparents, siblings, and in-laws to raid their life savings. Horowitz, 37, promised investors returns in excess of 35%, and for many years paid supposed returns on early investments using funds from new investments, the Securities and Exchange Commission said. Securing loans from his friends in order to finance deals for the rights to movies that would then be sold to large streaming services for a profit, according to authorities. Horowitz used the illicit proceeds to live a seemingly idyllic life with his wife and child in a $6 million mansion near Beverly Hills. But investigators said that Horowitz simply fabricated the tale to his friends and family by discovering old distribution contracts and then copying and pasting them into Microsoft Word documents that were fake. Horowitz would forge signatures of executives whose names he looked up on LinkedIn in order to convince investors to loan him money. He would also show his investors fake text messages that he claimed were from Netflix and HBO executives. Jacob Wonderland, who was a friend of Horowitz from their days as undergraduates at Indiana University in Bloomington, was persuaded to invest $37,000 after Horowitz showed him a contract that made it appear as if he was selling called Desai company Rogue Black was being backed by former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. He even showed Wonderland an email that appeared to come from Schultz's own account, the New Yorker reported. Wonderland was in awe of the returns to the point where he convinced his parents to put up half their retirement savings. Horowitz's friends said that they were seeing returns upward of 20%, which whetted their appetites even more and prompted them to loan him even more money. "We'd get paid on time, real cash without fail," Joseph De Alteri, another college friend, told the New Yorker. Some of Horowitz's friends took out more loans to allow him to do more deals. They even mused about quitting their full-time jobs in finance to help Horowitz grow his business. De Alteri convinced his widowed mother, who was a retired physician's assistant, to invest $40,000 in a 2-year period. Horowitz's friends made a profit on some 27 fictitious movie deals, according to the New Yorker. Horowitz was able to get away with the scheme for 5 years by covering his tracks, according to investigators. He hired a woman to impersonate an HBO executive who would then speak to his investors by phone in order to answer questions they may have about prospective deals. Horowitz also told investors not to contact the streaming platforms directly because he had signed non-disclosure agreements with them. According to prosecutors, Horowitz used the money to pay for private jet flights and yacht trips, as well as $605,000 for luxury cars that included a Mercedes-Benz and an Audi, $174,000 for party planners, and $54,600 for a luxury watch subscription service. As an actor, Horowitz was beginning to see modest success in the movie business. In 2020, he appeared in a supporting role alongside Succession star Cox in the film Last Moment of Clarity. The next year, he co-starred in The Getaway, which featured Dern and Munn. But the Ponzi scheme collapsed in 2020 when Horowitz ran out of investors to plow more money into the fraud. When early investors started demanding their money back, Horowitz would delay, prompting them to threaten lawsuits. Eventually, duped investors started contacting law enforcement, who launched an investigation. One of those investors was Robert Henney, a screenwriter who told the federal judge who presided over Horowitz's case that he lost $1.8 million in the scheme. Another investor, a 64-year-old, said that he had to come out of retirement just to make ends meet after losing $1.4 million. Quote, I cry every day and have stopped seeing friends or family because of the shame of this financial loss and have a now severe distrust in other human beings, unquote. The unnamed investor told a Los Angeles federal court on February 14, 2022, the day that Horowitz was sentenced to 2 decades behind bars. The mother of a 46-year-old special needs daughter said that she will never be able to earn what has been taken from me and my daughter, but emotional damage is even greater. Horowitz's wife filed for divorce after his arrest. End of article, New York Post article. Okay, now let's head over to the LA Times article. Title of article, actor who faked HBO Netflix deals is set to plead guilty in $650 million Ponzi scheme. This article from the LA Times is from 2021, not from last week at the end of May 2024. So now going back in time, this is sort of a more foundational article. Zachary Horowitz, an actor in low-budget horror and science fiction movies, has agreed to plead guilty to running a massive Hollywood Ponzi scheme. Horowitz, 34, right? 34 in 2021, 37 in 2024. Horowitz, 34, admitted in court papers that he duped investors into giving him more than $650 million for fictitious movie deals with HBO and Netflix. While Horowitz repaid much of the money in order to lure victims into investing more, he also spent large sums of it to finance his lavish lifestyle, according to his September 1st plea agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. Horowitz acknowledged that he had failed to repay $231 million. The agreement calls for Horowitz to plead guilty to 1 count of securities fraud at a hearing on October 4th. Prosecutors indicate in court records that they will ask U.S. District Judge Mark C. Scarsi to impose a hefty sentence in light of the huge sum Horowitz swindled. He faces up to 20 years in prison. Horowitz's attorney, Anthony Pacheco, did not respond to requests for comment. Horowitz admitted in the plea agreement then licensing them to Netflix, HBO, or other platforms to stream online in Latin America, Australia, Europe, and Africa. Investors would lend one in capital from $35,000 to $1.5 million per film deal, and Horowitz guaranteed he would repay them within a year with a return of 25% to 45% according to the plea agreement. But Horowitz acknowledged in the agreement that the distribution and licensing contracts were forged. The effort to con investors into thinking they would eventually be repaid included showing them fake correspondence he claimed to have exchanged with Netflix and HBO executives. More than 250 investors fell victim to Horowitz's scheme. The plea agreement says they included several of Horowitz's closest friends from college, along with their parents, grandparents, siblings, and in-laws, some of whom lost their retirement savings. Brian R. Michael, a lawyer for 3 of the college friends, said his clients were pleased that Horowitz is being held accountable for his criminal fraud. The college friends have been trying to help federal investigators recover Horowitz's assets so that victims can rebuild their lives after devastating harm he has caused so many people, Michael said. Horowitz, who grew up in Florida and Indiana, moved to Los Angeles in 2012. He befriended two brothers who helped him break into the film business, producer Julio Jalivis and his brother Diego, a director and producer. Under the name Zach Avery, Horowitz appeared in a series of low-end films including Trespassers and The Devil Below. The Ponzi scheme turned Horowitz into a wealthy man. He traveled by private jet and bought a $5.7 million Beverly Wood house with a screening room, gym, and a 1,000-bottle wine cellar, according to court records. Former friends said in court papers that he often bought courtside seat at Lakers games and once tried to tip a waitress $5,000. The scam began to unravel in 2019 when Horowitz was unable to meet investors' demands for repayment, sparking a lawsuit that alerted Netflix to his use of forged contracts. Horowitz was arrested at dawn on April 6 when FBI agents raided the house in Beverly Wood. The banging of the doors literally caused our walls to tremble, and being woken up to a troop of FBI agents swarming our house that I believed he was. A federal grand jury indicted Horowitz in May on 5 counts of securities fraud, 6 counts of wire fraud, and 2 counts of aggravated identity theft. If he goes forward with the plan to plead guilty to a single fraud charge, the others will be dismissed. End of that article by Michael Finnegan, Los Angeles Times, back in 2021. So, now that we have discussed the 2 articles, the one that became standing, it's really quite sad. So, you have so many mistakes, but specifically going after friends and family, ridiculously stupid. And then of course forgery and these but the Ponzi was 690 million, and that was quite intense. So unfortunately 20 years in federal